Hi, my name's Alex, and today is a Microbial Monday. So let's jump in. Let's go viral. Today, I'd like to tell you about a way in which populations of humans and populations of viruses are similar. We're similar and that we're diverse. For humans, diversity between us gives us a lot of benefits. If we were all carbon copies, if one of us, like myself, had a predilection towards anxiety, then all of us would. Can you imagine a world filled with completely anxious people all the time? Myself, I'm pretty happy that there are some more chilled out humans around me who can, tone my anxiety down. We work better together in groups that are different. Or, for example, if one of us humans would have one polymorphism or one small change in our DNA that would make us more susceptible to a given virus, then all of us would. So, in the former example, we might end up with a very anxiety ridden, cautious, boring version of humanity. And in the latter example, one virus could wipe all of humanity out in one fell swoop because we would all be equally susceptible to it. Either case is not an imaginary world that I would want to live in. Viruses, they need diversity for the exact same reasons. In the dance of evolution against their hosts, having small differences between individual viruses in a group, that can have a big impact. And that can give some individual viruses an edge, permitting them to sneak past certain immune cells in the host that they're infecting, or even infect new types of cells, for example, that their brothers and sisters, who are a little bit different, cannot. And this is applicable to all viruses, as far as I know, including SARS-CoV-2. And that's why you see some strains, like now Omicron, for example, gaining an advantage. Well, Omicron started out with one single virus that had one small change in its genetic material that gave it an advantage over its brothers and sisters. And from that one virus, many more viruses were produced and eventually became, well, the dominant type of virus circulating in our human population. But as well as SARS-CoV-2, this is also applicable for HIV. And today I would like to tell you a little bit about some research that was done by my colleagues at the Amsterdam UMC on populations of HIV viruses. This research highlights another way in which diversity amongst viruses is important, for the virus, that is. So let's jump into the story on HIV. So when a person is infected with HIV, their body becomes a little microcosm of evolution for the virus. Within that one person, many different strains of the HIV-1 virus can arise, and each of those strains might have some advantage in accomplishing specific tasks that are important for the virus. Some of those strains might be very good at infecting particular types of cells, and some strains might be very good at transmitting to a new host, so transmitting from one human to another, expanding that microcosm to a duality. And in the case of HIV, these viruses that specialize in transmitting from one human to another actually have a special name. They're called transmitted founder viruses. And you can think of this like a jar of candy. Everything contained in here, it is similar in that it's candy. And while all of them will tickle your taste buds in some way, some are going to appeal more to people with a predilection for orange flavored candy and others for grape flavored candy. So they all have features that allow them to accomplish slightly different tasks. And that's the same for different viruses within a viral population. They're all viruses, but with slightly different features that can have slightly different outcomes. Transmitted founder viruses are so named because they can transmit very well to a new host, a new human, and they can found a new infection there, a new microcosm with resources rich for the taking for the virus to capitalize on. In the paper that I want to talk to you about today, my colleagues in Amsterdam found a new ability of transmitted founder HIV-1 variants that probably helps facilitate this transmitter function. So if we start at the very beginning, a few years back, my supervisor here in Amsterdam showed that there's actually a specific type of human cell that resides at the surface of human skin and genital tissue that is actually able to protect against HIV-1 infection. When these cells, called Langerhans cells, come into contact with HIV-1, the cells scoop up the virus and then direct it towards the recycling system of the cell, called autophagy, one of my favorite topics if you want to check out one of the other videos on my channel here. and then the virus is broken down into its harmless subcomponents. So therefore, these Langerhans cells, they act as a barrier against incoming HIV. Now, in this follow-up paper, some light has been shed on why this system isn't perfect. Because after all, if this system was perfect, we'd be able to always block incoming HIV thanks to Langerhans cells. And well, HIV wouldn't be a problem for us. So this finding helps explain why we still get HIV, even though we have these great Langerhans cells as barrier. So instead of getting broken down in these Langerhans cells, transmitted founder viruses are able to replicate inside Langerhans cells and then from there escape to other parts of the body where the virus can continue infecting, replicating in, and spreading within the body of the infected person. So at the moment, we still don't know the exact features of the transmitted founder viruses that allow them to avoid being degraded by Langerhans cells. But I think this is a really nice example of how different viruses within a population have different abilities. So in the case of HIV, there are these viruses that get targeted and broken down in Langerhans cells, and these other ones that can completely escape this protective mechanism. And even though they have these different abilities, we refer to them all as HIV. So we often think of this as one generic microbial invader, one single threat. But actually every virus is more like an army, a population of different individuals with different strengths and different weaknesses, or different flavors of the same candy. So in that sense, they're not only a lot like candy, they're also a lot like us. And it's also an important lesson that we can learn from viruses. Diversity is powerful. If you liked this video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe because there will be many more Microbial Mondays. And if this wasn't enough microbiology for you, you can also check out my blog, microbialmondays.com, where there's a whole other story about microbiology waiting there for you every Monday. See you there!